Are you ready?
Hello there, students! Today's lecture is a small one where I look at the maximum distance of the greatest theoretical knockback. If you haven't seen Xeny's video on this subject, go check it out now. He's a really cool guy and it's a really cool video. I'm a big fan of his work. This video also serves as a prelude to a future video where I explain velocities in near excruciating detail. There are two important things to remember about achieving this maximum distance. 1. The maximum possible airspeed in Team Fortress 2 is around 6,062.18 hammer units per second, and if you go above this, the game will simply lower it. The maximum velocity is actually 3,500, but due to a technicality, it's actually 6,062.18 hammer units per second. The maximum velocity can be changed, however, using server plugins. In the case of finding the maximum distance, we're going to ignore the limit entirely. And 2. Blast knockbacks work by sudden impulse. If you get knocked back by stickies, then you'll immediately feel the knockback effects. The only thing that reduces your velocity over time is gravity, which is 800 hammer units per second. We'll go into these 2 points at another time. We're going to start by assuming that all 31 players are detonating stickies on the exact same frame. This requires 434 stickies, 31 times 14, since we're using a Scottish resistance. The maximum amount of knockback possible using a single crit Scottish resistance sticky was 1,500 hammer units per second, assuming that the target is wearing a thermal thruster, which increases all received knockback by 50%. Another factor to take into account is the angle. It will need to be a perfect 45 degrees both horizontally and vertically. As you can tell, this is going to be a perfect scenario. What we're calculating is simply practical, and to get this knockback you'll need quite a lot of attention to detail. So 1,500 times 434 is 651,000. But that just means nothing. What matters are the individual values. If we have a perfect 45 degree angle, as I said earlier, this would mean that the player would be going at around 1060.660 hammer units per second, horizontally and vertically, for a single crit sticky with thermal thrusters. But wait, 1060? What happened to 1500, I hear you ask? Well, this is actually because of something called a vector magnitude, but that's something for another time. So, 1060.660 horizontally and vertically. This would mean that for all 434 stickies, the player would be going at around 460,326.44 hammer units per second horizontally and vertically. Our final step is to calculate how long the player will be airborne for. As established earlier, the default gravity is 800 hammer units per second. So going off mathematical calculations, it would take 575.40805 seconds for the player to stop climbing horizontally. Before getting to the final value, we need an actual comparison, something to compare it against in Team Fortress 2. The 2-4 bridge is about... Actually, no. We need something bigger. Something far exceeding that. The length of the 2-4 bridge is 23,164 hammer units. I swear I actually did measure that. The maximum possible length of a Team Fortress 2 map, before the map compiler gives up, is around 32,766 hammer units. So by the time they've reached the apex of their jump, they will have reached an astounding 264,875,539.2 hammer units in distance, whilst in height they will have reached 132,437,769.6 hammer units. And of course, since this is just at the apex, it would take the same amount of time to fall, meaning that the distance travelled before the apex would need to be multiplied by 2. So the total distance travelled by our limit-breaking jump would be 529,751,078.4 hammer units. And since one hammer unit is the equivalent of 0.0625 feet, our final launch distance in feet would be 33,109,442.4 feet. For additional reference, there is a true limit to Team Fortress 2's range boundaries, which is that number. Anything beyond that point and the source engine won't be able to register it. So, whilst we do have an astonishingly great distance for the jump, it barely scratches the surface of how far we can go. I did plan to test this out in action, but for some reason my server hangs every time I try to do it. I am not joking. Even creating a server-side demo only showed that the knockback effect was too instantaneous to see. Although I am considering revisiting this to see if I can get more out of the topic in the future. Goodbye for now, and class dismissed. Oh god. The maximum amount of knockback possible using a single crit Scottish resist. There! The maximum amount of knockback possible using a single crit Scottish.
Wait, 1060?
Oh god, what is that? Why am I mocking my fan base like that? Yeah, you guys are awesome. Why am I doing that? The length of the 2 forts bridge is the length of the 2 is around 327 The maximum possible length of a Team Fortress 2 map before the map compiler fails is around 32.7. Oh my god. Okay, compose yourself.